Hi everyone, Seth Scrimo here with the best of Wooster, and today we are at the Lincoln Way Winery. Today, I have Jim and Alex. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great. Thanks for coming
Yeah,
up.
pretty good.
Cool, awesome. All right, well, we're gonna get into the questions here. So it's Friday night, and you're heading out to eat. Where are you going, and what makes Lincoln Way Vineyards such a great spot for a night out?
Well, we may be biased a little bit, but we'd head over to the winery because we're going to have a food truck and live music every Friday and Saturday night. We rotate our food truck styles, so something different every time. Free music, no cover charge, so dinner and a show. So again, we might be a little biased, but we'd head over to the winery for a night out.
Now, you mentioned that your location changes depending on the time of year. Can you tell us about some of the places people might find you? And what's your favorite spot when you're not at the winery?
So depending on the time of the year and what we're doing in the winery, you might find us out in the vineyard. You might find us in the crush pad or in the cellar. You might find us in the tasting room. And then during the summer, you'll find us out at a lot of farm markets, including the Wooster Farm Market downtown on Saturday mornings. You might find us out at some wine festivals around the state of Ohio. Favorite place to be? Probably after a long day, relaxing in my recliner. But obviously, we love coming into the winery and seeing our customers and seeing the customers that have become friends over the years. Alex loves to spend time in the cab of the tractor. You might find him there at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Usually I try and finish up a little before then, but when the vineyards need sprayed, that they need sprayed.
What's your all-time favorite movie, and how do you think it connects with your journey in the wine industry?
Top Gun is by far my favorite movie. I have no idea how it connects to the wine industry. I guess it's a little bit of the Kenny Loggins' danger zone. The running joke in the wine business is to make a small fortune in the wine business, you start with a large one. So it's a big risk. We're heading into the danger zone when we started the winery from that standpoint. So maybe that's the correlation. I'm trying to think of other correlations to Top Gun that the winery would have, but yeah, maybe it's just a stylistic difference.
Yeah, I don't know what I couldn't even think of a favorite movie. Maybe because I'm over at the winery a little too often to watch a movie, but I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind for a favorite movie for me.
Okay, maybe they should make one. You got some star in it, huh?
Well, there's been lots of movies that have wine or wineries in them. Sideways and what is it, Land of the Tuscan Sun and all that, but they weren't my favorites. They were ones I got into.
I'll say there's plenty of Hallmark movies, but I'm not into those either. So
Usually anything with Tom Cruise is pretty good. What's the best thing about your life right now, and how do you balance that excitement of running your business with your personal time?
I think the best thing about our life right now is, and maybe it's a good and bad thing, is that we're busy. We're always busy. Grass doesn't grow under our feet very often. And the fact that we get to do this winery thing as a family is great. Al, obviously, is my son, is the vineyard manager. My wife is actively involved. We call her our chief blending officer. It doesn't go in the bottle without her approval. And then our daughter, or my daughter and Sherry's daughter, Ari, Alex's sister, will be coming back to join us after she graduates from Ohio State to be our assistant winemaker. She already does all of our cider making, so it's a family activity. It's truly a family-owned and operated business.
Now, the vineyard came from your background in agriculture and your wife's experience in the wine industry. Can you tell us more about how these paths merged to create the winery?
We got married. When we started dating, Sherry was a wine wholesaler in Columbus and represented a lot of higher-end boutique wine brands. I had grown up with the aspiration of being a dairy farmer and taking over my grandfather's dairy operation in Northwest Ohio. Life happens. Grandpa said, don't plan on being a farmer. I don't want you to join this industry. So I went and found something else to do, but I always wanted to get back into agriculture some way. When we were approached to grow grapes for another winery, Sherry saw it as a way back into the wine business because she had kind of walked away when we moved here to the Wooster area from Columbus. And I saw it as an opportunity to get back more involved in the agricultural side of things. So literally we got married, and fate took us to the path we're on right now. Blending our various backgrounds and talents to create the wine, first the vineyard and then the winery. And then as the kids grew up, they initially hated the vineyard, and I'll let Alex talk about that. But eventually they started to understand that this could be a career for them. the rest is history. Both of them used used the winery and the vineyard as their SAE in the FFA programs. Both of them earned their state and American degrees using it. Both of them placed in the state, the proficiencies with that. So it's kind of been the marriage of talents with my wife and I, and then just the kids growing up in that environment. And Alex probably can say more about how much he hated the vineyard growing up.
I mean, I don't know if I hated the vineyard, but it was more so the combination back then with my sister and I in the vineyard wasn't a good combination. Mostly because my sister's not a huge fan of the like bees and stuff, which are commonly found in a vineyard. And then I'd have to deal with that the whole time we were out there. And so once we got to the age where my sister didn't have to be out in the vineyard with me, it sort of became more enjoyable that I could do it on my own whenever I wanted. And then it sort of just grew from there to once we got into the COVID time. I was able to hire a bunch of my friends from high school to come out in the vineyards and work with me. And then it's just sort of been fun working with my vineyard crew every year since then.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like everything kind of fell into place. What made you guys decide to take the leap?
It was, a long story. I always joke, how many beers do you have? Because this is a mini beer story. It started as when we planted the vines. At the onset, we didn't really think we would ever be a winery. As time went on and we participated in the Ohio Grape and Wine Conference every year to learn new things about the wine business, we would come back home and kind of, maybe we should be a winery. And every year it got a little closer. Every year we'd kind of scratch out an idea a little bit farther on our notepad. And then we started doing some home winemaking. The first couple of batches, Sherry said, there's no way I'm ever going to sell this. So those got dumped. As time went on and we learned our craft, so to speak, she started realizing that, hey, these are sellable batches of wine based on her experience in the wine business. And then it was just one of those things where everything came together. The building that is now the winery came up for auction. Ran into a banker on a golf course when I was selling mulligans for a hole-in-one contest. Got to talking to the banker while I was trying to sell her some mulligans and told her what we were trying to do. And she's like, yeah, let's talk. And then suddenly we had a loan for our equipment and the building rehab. So everything just kind of built on each other and eventually came together all at once. And once we bought the building, actually, I should say, once Alex bought the building.
Technically, I did that, I suppose.
You bought the building as an 8th grader. I'll let you tell that part of the story.
Well, I mean, both Mom and Dad were out of town for various other reasons, and it was just Grandpa and I left around the area to attend the auction. And technically, Grandpa was the one raising his hand. I was just next to him supervising at the time. So, but Dad was on the phone with us the whole time, and then we ended up getting the building out of it.
Awesome. So starting a business like this comes with its many challenges, especially with financing. How did you navigate those hurdles, and what advice would you give to those looking to start a business with similar capital needs?
Well, first off, the adage in the wine business is to make a small fortune, you start with a large one or have a friendly banker. We went the friendly banker route. The darn thing is the bankers still want paid back. So that's kind of the downside of the business, is that you still have to pay back your creditors. Going into a capital intensive business like this, my advice would be is to start small, find used equipment if you can. Start with a smaller amount or smaller dollar amounts or smaller size equipment and grow. It's not the worst thing in the world to run out of product. That's a good problem to have if you run out, and then you can expand later. Probably our mistake was we bought too big of equipment to start with. And so, we struggled a lot longer than maybe we should have to get up and running, to the level we want to be at. So that would be my advice is, start small and grow into it. And it's not the worst thing in the world if you outgrow your equipment and sell it and trade up for bigger stuff, because in the end, that's going to help your cash flow.
Now, you talked about how your background in agriculture and wine came together, and it seems like a very unique way for the winery. Were there any surprises along the way?
Oh, there's always surprises. I think some of the surprises had to do with some of the regulatory things that we had to jump through, the hoops we had to jump through. The irony is that I used to work for Ohio EPA, and that ended up being some of our biggest hurdles to go through. So fortunately, I had some background with it and understood what was being thrown at us. I think the biggest surprise that no one saw coming was COVID. We opened our doors in late in 2018. We're still trying to get our feet under us in 2019, and then early in 2020, the rug got pulled out underneath us and everybody else that had a business that relied on the public. So I think that was the biggest surprise. And of course, we joke that I don't know why I didn't put a international pandemic in our business plan as something to worry about. But clearly, that was an impact on not just us, but a lot of businesses. And today, you still see breweries and restaurants that haven't recovered and they're going out. We can go online any day now and see a brewery for sale, brew lines and things like that. So it's others have not fared as well as we did. It's unfortunate.
What trends are you noticing in the wine industry today, and how do you stay ahead of those customer preferences to keep the winery evolving?
Well, a lot of the preferences today are that the young generation, Alex's generation, they're not necessarily looking for wine if they're going to drink alcohol at all. That's one of the challenges is the current generation statistically is shying away from drinking, period. So there's a percentage of the market that we used to get that when people turned 21, they'd come out and see the winery. Well, now there's a percentage of that generation that is not even going to step foot in a winery unless you have non-alcoholic beverages. So obviously non-alcoholic is a trend that's out there. So mocktails and things like that. That's an expensive thing for a winery our size to jump into to produce non-alcoholic wines. So that's going to be a challenge for us. The other side of it is that new trends. There's orange wine trends. There's the low sugar trend. There's the low alcohol trend. There's all sorts of trends, and they all are driven by different things. Whether it's people want to be healthier, so they don't want as much sugar in their wine, or not as much alcohol, or now the trend is dry January. So every year on January 1st, we pretty much hit a wall on sales until February 1st because everybody's got their New Year's resolutions. That's nothing new every year. It's just something we have to deal with. I think those are some of the trends that we're struggling with as to how do we fit into that, and how is that going to impact Alex and Ari as they come into the business and take over the business down the road. Is trying to stay ahead of that.
Balancing full-time job with managing the winery can obviously be pretty tough. How do you find time to grow professionally, and how has managing people in other roles translated to running the winery?
So yeah, that's always a struggle running a business and working full time away from the business. Fortunately, we have some really good people that we trust to run things when I'm not here or Sherry's not here. We also trust Alex to kind of run a lot of things when we're not around as well. And this is his full time job. Alex is our lone full time employee. As far as growing professionally, because I work full time and I have continuing education requirements as part of my full time job, I get the opportunity through my full time employer to grow professionally, whether it's on a technical aspect in that career, but there's some applicability over to the winery side, especially when you get into the regulatory environments. Managing people, I have a team of 13 people I manage, I call my real job. So every day I'm dealing with a group of professionals all over the country. Most of them I will not see in several years' time face to face. So it's kind of applies to the winery that if I can't be here, I'm managing it remotely, whether it's by text, by email, by phone call. So some of those things directly translate when I can't be in the winery and I'm working with our tasting room staff at that point, or working with Alex and saying, hey, we need to do this. Can you handle that kind of thing? So I think that's how I grow professionally. Alex gets to grow professionally because he is a professional YouTuber. He will go on YouTube, binge watch videos on YouTube, and suddenly become an expert on things. And I'll let him talk about that.
I'll say I tend to fall down the YouTube rabbit hole of what am I going to learn this week, and then just continuing to go to the next video and the next video and the next video, and all of a sudden I've learned quite a bit about brewing. So we'll see where that goes.
How do you engage with the community and customers? And are there any moments that stand out to you or events?
So we engage with our customers obviously every time they come in here. We have we'll call them long-term customers, regulars as they would like to be called, that if you remember the show Cheers, you had Norm and that whole group that would sit at one end of the bar. We kind of have the same type of customers that come in that we know who they are the minute they walk in the door. We know what wine they're going to want. We know about what time they're going to show up on what night. So they have a table reserved, and they have their wine waiting for them when they get to the table. We would love to get to that point with every one of our customers, and that's how we like to engage with them. That's how we encourage our staff to engage with our customers. As far as getting the winery out in front of people that aren't here on a weekly basis. We go to farm markets, we go to wine festivals, introduce ourselves to the community, introduce ourselves to the wine community in other areas of the state. What stands out to me, probably going to some of the festivals like Vintage Ohio, which is a 2-day wine festival with 10,000 people that come through on a weekend. And you'll end up running into people that, they'll try our wines, and next thing you know, they're down here at the winery checking us out, or they've put an online order in for us to ship to them. I think that's kind of where we get out in front of people the most. I'm going to look to Alex, because he's been to some of these as well, and see if he's got other ideas.
I'll say the only other big festivals that would really stand out to the public would be, I'd probably say the Glass City Wine Festival in Toledo is another massive festival that we go to. And then other than that, it's probably more so just on our Saturdays, we're not at just one market, where it's sometimes 5 or 6 locations at once on a Saturday morning. You'll find us.
They're everywhere, folks. You've made some significant changes since starting the winery. Can you share one that you're very proud of, and how did you decide which changes are worth making?
I'm stumped. Obviously, we have added several wine labels since we started. When we started, we only had 9 wine labels. We had 3 sweet, 3 dry, 3 off dry, red, white, and rosé in each category. Since then, we've added another 9 labels with 3 more on the way. That we've expanded our selection from just those original 3 wines to now we have straight varietal wines, so that they're featuring the grape that's in the bottle. We have added sparkling wines. We've added dessert wines. We've added fruit and wine, white wine blends to enhance or get to what the customers want. We've added hard ciders. Little known fact, you can make hard ciders under a winery license. So we can't brew beer under a winery license, but we can make hard cider. So we've added a lot of product over the time to meet our customers' expectations or changing desires. A lot of people come in here and it's like, well, I tried this the last time I was here. Let me try something new. So having something new has allowed us to continue to get to customers or to keep customers coming back because they want to try some new things.
I'd say as the vineyard manager, the thing that I'm most happy that we made a change since we opened is we've always had our back vineyard in the back that I've always had to maintain. But up until last year, we finally got our liquor expansion so that we can now take customers out to the back vineyard and have them try wines back there, which is cool for me because I've been wanting to show off all the hard work I put in back there for years. And now we're finally able to do tours every Saturday in the summertime for that.
So looking ahead, let's say we had a crystal ball and we could see where you wanted to be in the next 5 years. What's your vision for the future?
There as I sell the business over to my kids. And I always say that with Alex sitting right here and watch the eye roll happen. Yeah, I would say in the next 5 years, I definitely want to see my wife and I transition away from our real jobs and full time into the winery. Obviously, Ari transition into the winery as the winemaker and kind of step up and take over more and more of the winemaking responsibilities from Sherry. As Sherry has time, she can spend more time with more of the blend, more of the blending, the quality control to put it in the bottle. But let Ari take on some of more of the, we'll call it the physical work in the background, and that also frees Alex up to go out and spend more time working on the vines to really enhance our grape quality, because great wine is made in the vineyard. So the more focus we put in the grapes in the vineyard, the better our wine quality is once we get it in the door. And I see that as our 5-year plan, is to really focus on getting the family actively engaged full-time in the winery and really focusing on those wine quality parameters that would put us among some of the names in Ohio that if you think of an Ohio winery, that we get mentioned in the same sentence, that would be the long-term goal. You're going to plant more vines.
Oh yeah, I guess in 5 years I'll probably end up planting more vines. The team seems to be doing that every couple of years anyways. So I guess my 5-year plan would be probably to improve our fruit production across all of our acreage, just to improve the yield a little better, and just continue to maintain the vineyards and keep them looking as nice as they do.
And I would add to that as he plants more grapes, the end goal would be is that we become an estate winery. Right now we are an 100% Ohio winery, which means that everything that goes in the bottle came from an Ohio vineyard or Ohio fruit farm. But the long-term goal would be is to get to a point where at least a good chunk of our production is estate, which means it comes only from our vineyard. And that would be a source of pride that it's grown here, it's made here, all the way from the ground up, and that would be, in the next 5 years, a really cool place to be. Of course, if we keep outselling our vineyard, then we're still going to have to buy from someone else. So it'll make that goal tougher and tougher to get to.
Everyone likes homegrown stuff, right? For anyone listening who might be inspired to start a similar venture, what advice would you give them? And what's one thing, he's laughing, everyone, just so you know. What's one thing you wish you had known before beginning this?
I guess my first reaction is don't. Don't do it. I guess my advice before jumping into it is to understand that it is a significant investment. When you plant grapes, you're gonna spend $10,000 to $15,000 up front for every acre you plant, not including labor. That's just the vines and the trellising and things like that. And you're not going to see any revenue come back from that vineyard for 3 to 5 years, depending on how the growth happens in those first couple of years. Year 3, you might get a small harvest, a small return. It's not till year 4 or 5 that you're going to start seeing more of that revenue. So it's just to make sure you understand that going in, that it's not just like, oh, it's so romantic, I'll go plant a half acre of vines and I'll, next week I'll be a full function winery. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and it's not that once you plant those vines that you can just wait three years for that money to start coming back in. You also have to be spending every year in the summertime, all through the growing season, out there maintaining those vines to improve them. So it's not just a plant them and hands off. It's a plant them and then spend many, many hours out within your trellising, training, and getting those vines into production.
Finally, are there any friends or family members who you'd like to acknowledge for their support along the way?
Well, obviously, Alex and Ari and Sherry, all of us as family, contributed to this. I would also say that my parents, Ron and Janet Borton, they were there the day we planted our first vines. They are involved in the winery. There are truck drivers in the fall when we're picking up grapes from other vineyards. Mom and Dad do the trucking for us, so Alex can be on the crush pad. Mom has been doing the cork and crafts in the winery, some of our Thursday night features during the winter, just something to do. So she's been teaching those. In addition to that, my mother-in-law, Judy Bowman, has helped out from time to time in the vineyard. My father-in-law and mother-in-law, Les and Barb Bowman, also were there the day we planted our first vines and have been in and out off and on helping with every time we replant or add plants. They seem to get involved in that. They volunteer themselves to help out with that. And then when we go to, Alex had mentioned earlier, the Glass City Wine Festival and some other festivals that we go to. I have cousins that live in those areas, so we recruit them to help us run our booth so that we can keep our staff here in the tasting room. So I recruit several cousins from Southeast Michigan, Northwest Ohio, to help out with running wine festivals when we're up there. It really is a family affair, and from the immediate family to the extended family.
And then I'd say from the part that I'm most integral in is probably our harvesting of our own grapes. A lot of my friends will come out and they'll get a text about once a week for about 5 or 6 weeks straight, as we do one variety a week, and we'll pick a day that week and they'll come out and we'll pick a whole variety in a day. And they're usually out every week for 6 weeks, 1 day a week, and definitely thankful for them to come out and help us with that.
And likewise, the tasting room crew, we can't do this without them, especially if we're working someplace else, or if I'm helping Alex in the vineyard and I'm not in the tasting room, we've got to rely on some staff here. And we've had some staff that have been with us for going on 6 years, not quite original to the tasting room, but pretty close, that we've leaned on pretty heavily to run the show when we're not available. And we can't do it without them as well.
Awesome. So where can people find Lincoln Way Vineyards, and how can they get in contact with you if they need anything?
Well, you can come visit the winery. That's the easiest place to find our wines and to find us. You can find us at various farm markets throughout the summer: Wooster, Loudonville, Salina out in Western Ohio. Just to name a few of them that we go to. We're always looking to add some new ones, and we had some that we were at last year that aren't going to get the license that it's required for us to be there. So we're looking for new places to land. You can look on our website. We can ship wine anywhere in the state of Ohio and 38 other states. That's at lincolnwayvineyards.com. You can call the winery, and when we're open, the phone number is kind of unique. It's 330
804 wine. So 84 wine to get a hold of us in the tasting room and get any questions answered. Of course, we're on social media, Facebook, Instagram. We've got our music and food truck schedule up there. We've got all of our contact information as well. Otherwise, you'll see us starting in the next couple of weeks. We'll start the festival circuit for the state for the, I don't want to say summer when the first one's on March 1st, but you'll start
2025 season.
Yeah, the 2025 festival season, which puts us out on the road about 2 times a month at a festival somewhere in the state of Ohio. So coming to a town near you, Toledo, Cincinnati,
Grove City,
up
Kirkland,
Columbiana, Kent. Yeah, just some off the top of my head. So Solon. Yeah, so we've got quite a few coming up. So
Awesome. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add?
well, we'd love to see everybody come out and visit us, and make sure when you come and visit, you mentioned you heard us with Seth today, so we know that where you heard the information.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming in, being on the show. And if anyone else needs any other contact information, you can reach out to myself at 330-221-1547. You guys have a great day. Bye.